here we go. All right, dude. So we are rolling, and so what brings you to Omegle today? What's your story?
I just like talking to people, bro. I've always kind of been like a friendly person, so just trying to find cool people to talk to. I get skipped a lot though, so
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, like, do you find many people on here? Like, what have been some of your better conversations?
I met this girl from Brazil, and we talked for a little bit, and I got her Snapchat, and so it's like fun to like meet people on social, and I don't know, it's kind of just like connecting with people. I was talking to this cool girl like last week, but my internet disconnected, so lost that
Ah, doesn't
conversation.
that suck? I know you get these like really good deep conversations, and they just like float away, into the ether. But
Yeah.
well, what are some of your interests?
Uh, Man, right now I don't really have many. I work full time.
Oh,
Uh,
what do
I
you
like to
like?
call.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go for it.
No, I work and I play Call of Duty. So that's
Yes,
about
dude.
it.
Dude, I play Warzone all the time.
Hell yeah.
I just got my first two win streak on squads. It's the first and only time it'll ever happen. First and only time it'll ever happen.
I respect. I haven't gotten a win yet. I'm pretty ass at Warzone. Not gonna
It's
lie.
very hard. It's really hard. Um, but so do you like doing your work? Like, what is your work about?
So I work at a water company, and so like I talk to people who need help with their bills, and or like if their water's been turned off, I like send somebody out to go and check on that. Make sure everything's good. The dream though, which I'm gonna start soon, is real estate school, and
Oh,
I'll sell houses to people.
oh, cool. So, like, what is it about that speaks to you?
Connecting with people, man. I've always kind of just liked, like your YouTube channel, like building bridges, like connecting with people and making sure they're happy. And I know like selling homes is a big part of that. Like you need a place to live. And so like finding the perfect place for somebody to, like root down and everything is something that makes me pretty happy. I'm going to
Yeah,
enjoy it, I think.
to help that you help them find their home.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
pretty intense.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to it.
Are your is your family also interested in that same kind of stuff?
Both my parents are accountants. So
Oh, interesting. Are they
way
pretty
different.
are they pretty supportive of your yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Did yeah, I guess I ask on here a lot. Did you ever feel like your parents were pressuring you to go uh, into a career path or a certain path at all?
I don't know. I wouldn't say pressured. I would say it was very recommended that I go to college. And so I tried it and I ended up leaving school. I did not go back this semester because I actually, part of my life, kind of like something, I guess, going on to that question about like what's made me who I am today is I'm a recovering drug addict. So I have 7 months sober in about 2 weeks.
Dude, amazing. That's rough. That's tough. 7 months.
Yeah. So I was addicted to like Xanax and Molly and Adderall and all those things. And I ended up overdosing in May and
Oh,
I went to rehab. And so that's kind of part of why I don't have many interests right now is because my interests used to be getting high. That's all I would do. And I'd just get high and either listen to music or avoid coming home so I didn't have to talk to my parents. So I'm trying to find something that, I have like a burning desire to do.
hmm.
Uh, I wanted to do MMA. I think that'd be really fun.
Go after McGregor.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna ask one day.
Well, I'm really fascinated with with your story of. I think one thing that I haven't really heard much about is how did you get into? Uh, I haven't really heard many stories about how people got into drug abuse. Like, what do you think for you was the gateway? Because people say, "Oh, weed is the gateway, cigarettes are a gateway, alcohol is a gateway." Do you think that there's any legitimacy to those arguments?
100%. I think weed is the biggest gateway drug. For I mean, like in rehab, they told us if there was an 85 and a 15, there's 85% of people that can drink or smoke and put it down and not have another one. And then there's that 15% of people that can do those things, but they can't put it down and they'll keep going. Then the main thing they taught us was you never know which one you're going to be. So why try it? And kind of how I got into it was I always was like growing up was fascinated with smoking for some reason. I don't know why, I couldn't tell you. But I was offered, I mean, I kind of asked one of my friends, I was like, do you want to smoke? And so we smoked, and it was all good and well for a while, just kind of smoking weed, chilling out, like with the boys, you know. And then halfway through my freshman year at college, I was hanging out with one of my friends, and he was like, "Hey, do you like want to come over and hang out with some people and smoke?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I get there, and they started asking if people wanted Molly, and I was like, "Oh,
I've
that."
heard of Molly. Yeah, yeah. Like, let me try that.
So tried Molly. I'm not gonna lie, it was the best experience of my life to date. Nothing has ever beat that first experience, and that was why I got hooked. It's because I kept chasing that high, because like it was like ethereal, almost like feeling God's presence, basically, which I wasn't, but uh, I spent 18 months chasing that high, which eventually led me to an overdose. I mixed a whole bunch of pills and stuff like that, and then I ended up blacking out for 10 hours, and I don't remember anything. I woke up the next morning, and my brother and my parents thought I was going to die that night before. And so I was like, oh God. So I had to tell my parents I was an addict, and I was like, I need help, because I know that if I don't get help right now, I'm gonna die, or I'm gonna end up on the streets, or I'm gonna end up in a bad place that I don't need to be in. Because I was doing nothing with my life. I had all these visions of like things that I was gonna do and how I was gonna make all this money and how I was gonna be super rich and do drugs all the time. And it was all just kind of like delusions of grandeur, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Just like fake reality that I had imagined for myself, and then it all came crashing down. And a lot of people talk about rock bottom, and that was my rock bottom. I kind of had to accept that the way that I'm living now is not the way that like that God wants me to live. Like I'm Christian, so that's something that I've also had to kind of recover with, is like knowing that my God is there, and knowing that he's way stronger than any of the drugs that I was ever taking, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it. You know, like you don't know if he's going to answer your prayer the way he like you want him to, but you know what his Xanax will do, or you'll know what smoking a blunt will do. Like you know all these things, you know how to cope with the things that you deal with drugs, and you don't know how to cope anyway, like any other way. And so I've had to teach myself that like when you want those things, to like do something that takes your mind off of it, or go on a drive, or you know, sometimes I will just lay in my bed and y'all have that like super deep craving of wanting to use, and I just won't leave my room. I know that if I leave, I'm going to do something that I regret. And so I, you know, like by the grace of God, have almost 7 months sober, like I said, but it's been the craziest 7 months of my life. My girlfriend at the time, we'd broken up, so I had to go through a breakup sober. Um, it's been it's been something, bro. It really doesn't feel like it's been as long as it has been, and then like looking back on it, it almost feels kind of like a fever dream. Like it almost feels like that part of my life was not real, which some people are like, oh, that's a good thing. And I'm like, yeah, but also like imagine looking back and having sparse memories of 6 months and having things that you don't remember at all. Like I look back at, like obviously I remember the last 6.5 months of my life, but before that, I don't really have much memory. It's just kind of like all these things that like I know I was places, but I don't remember what I did, what I said. I fucked up a lot. Like I was a terrible boyfriend, um, terrible son, terrible brother. Just was all these things that I don't want to be. And so I've spent the past, half of a year trying to rebuild those relationships and trying to strengthen my relationship with God, even though that's something I deal with every day. Like I've been going to church the past few months, trying to like realize that there's something bigger out there for me that's not getting high. And so getting a job and actually having something that like keeps me going every day is like a big, big boost, even though my work sucks. Like I don't really like doing it, but I do it because it gives me something to hold on to. So
Wow. Oh, dude. So I like so much respect for you. In a few ways. One, right now that you're able to articulate, your job working at this water company and the positives of it. That you get to talk to people, that you get to connect to people. That you have the fortitude and the courage to be able to talk about your experience like you just did. It's I mean, to be able to be vulnerable about your story and talk about it, um, and also in a way that it's clear that you've processed the experience as well. It's not like, oh, it was this and then sweeping it under the rug, and very forthcoming. Like there's just so much to admire about you, and I wanted to, put
I
that out there
appreciate
for
that.
you.
Thank you.
I don't know how many people give in that way, and sometimes I think people, at least I find it very difficult to accept those positive things, and so, but I know that they mean a lot to other people, so I want to offer that to you. I'm really interested in a part of your story. It seems as though you're when you that your overdose was kind of the trigger for you to go to NA or AA, or to at least find, um, I don't know, to look for change. Was there anything before that um, like, do you think that anything a person can say or do can help you realize that you want to change your lifestyle as a drug addict?
And like that's the hard thing. Like I think it's different for every person. Like I know addicts whose like families gave them interventions and were like, we're gonna leave you if you don't go to rehab. Or, and then there's some people that, they tell you in there you have to do it for yourself. You can't do it for anyone else. You can't do it for your parents, you can't do it for your wife, your kids. You can do it for yourself and have them as as an added bonus. Like you're doing it for yourself so you can be a better person, a better mother, a better father, better son, better, boyfriend. But you need, like, the first step of recovery is like admitting that you have a problem. And if you can't admit that you have a problem, then there's no point in you, going through with it, because if you don't see what you're doing as a problem, then you're going to keep doing it. And so for me, I spent 26 days in inpatient rehab. Like I was at a facility. I was, there for the better part of a month. I was there during the start of COVID and during George Floyd and during like all these things that have happened in the past year. But I wasn't connected to the outside world. I was inside this walled facility that dictated everything I did, hour by hour, minute by minute, for 26 days. And so that gets you in a routine. That gets you, even though those days were not, the best, it teaches you, um, I don't know, it teaches you discipline
Hmm.
because like you actually have to put work into going. And something that I also struggle with is going to meetings. Meetings make me really uncomfortable just because they're not. It's like nice to connect with people, but they're also very awkward, which is kind of something that like I can tell you, and it might not sound awkward, but like to experience it is like a way different thing than me saying it's awkward. And
Absolutely.
so just me personally, I have a hard time with going to meetings. Like I haven't even gone to pick up my 6 months chip, and that was 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
So it's rough going to meetings. I don't know why. It's just very uncomfortable for me. Like I feel like I'm being judged even though I'm not, because everybody there, has gone through something similar, is going through the same thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's just yeah, it's a different lifestyle, like being sober, coming from like being a drug addict and then switching from addiction to sobriety. It's a very very big change. There's nothing easy about it. There's nothing fun about it. There's like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna like judge people who drink or smoke for fun or party because that's not my place. I will encourage them, if they come to me and they're like, hey, I think I'm struggling, or like maybe I'm becoming an alcoholic, maybe I'm becoming a drug addict. Of course I'll be like, like you want to talk about it, like I've been through it, like I can offer you suggestions, but also like I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life. Like you need to make the decision yourself if you want to be sober or not. Like a lot of my friends still party or drink or smoke or do all these things, and I've had to burn bridges, and I've had to cut people off, and I've left group chats. I haven't spoken to friends that I had up at college in months just because I don't want that. And they're great people. It's just I don't need that that part in my life. Like I don't need to be in a group chat where people are posting drugs or like when they're high. So like even being on TikTok, I've had to like click not interested on certain videos because I'll get put on like Molly talk or drug talk or coke talk, like they call it, like all these things that like I liked when I was using. They still pop up on my page. Like I had a video today about coke, and I was like, like fuck, like
Yeah.
I need,
Fuck you. Yeah. Fuck you, TikTok.
damn it, I need to get off of this. And so usually I keep scrolling, and so and then there's some times where I like watch the video over and over again because like thinking about those experiences of like I did never do coke, but just thinking about the experiences of being high, like it triggers something in my head, and I can like kind of like feel it. Like you get this like feeling of like you remember, and it's like this like nostalgic kind of like I remember when I was geeked, just couldn't even put into words how messed up I was, like high off my ass, just fucked up.
What's
And so,
Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going. Yeah.
bro, what's
No,
up?
no. I mean, I'm sorry I interrupted. I was just gonna say, like, it's weird how the human brain, we can't control the thoughts that come into our head. You walk around, you see a stick of bubble gum, and you or immediately think of your mom who used to, chew Big Red, or you smell something like turnips for Thanksgiving, and you immediately think of your grandma and how she made that. And it's like with things like what you see, smell, hear, taste, like those things open up those avenues in the brain that bring you back to those times in your memory, and that's why, like, I'm imagining that, you recovering is very similar to a grieving process, that if a parent dies or a friend dies, that it's not it's never over. It just changes, you know. Um,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, but I mean that was just a reflection of what you were saying, and uh, I I'm I'm guessing. Um, well, I'm wondering for you, like, what is the difference between a person who is trying to be supportive but isn't really hitting the mark, and someone who actually is supportive?
I think I have a couple of friends who are like fully supportive. Like I've asked them not to send me things, or like if they're at parties, I've said don't Snapchat me pictures of you at parties. Like, just don't do that. And then I've had friends where I've had to ask them like, don't send me drugs. Like, do not do this. And I had a friend that I've cut off in the recent past that like we got into some stuff with, and like he was posting stuff on his private story, and I asked him to take me off of it, and he kept forgetting. So I kept seeing all these pictures of things that he was doing, and it like made me like really, really uncomfortable. And so there are people that I've had to like tell, like, do not send me this, do not post about this, do not like, and if you're gonna post about it, just take me off. Like I'm not gonna tell you again like what to do with your story on Snapchat, but like I don't want to see it. It's like if that means you unadding me as a friend, or like just not talking to you, like I'm sorry, like I love you, but I'm not going to talk to you because like I can't handle that right now. And I think it may get easier, but I don't need that negativity kind of like in my life right now. I need people that are going to be fully supportive and encourage me and build me up. And
That is so big, you know. We are the people that we surround ourselves with, you know.
yeah.
There are, you know, the people that you hang out with are reflections. You see, like the critiques and the way that you see people or describe people that you're around are how you actually talk and think about yourself. So why not just be around people who you admire? That way you'll admire yourself, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard to find those
100%.
people. It's hard to find those people though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
um,
I'm very lucky. I have a very supportive family. I have a very supportive friend group that I talk to every day, or I try to talk to every day. Um, and I have some of my friends text me and they're like, "Hey, like, do you have like recommendations?" Like one of my friends, she has been sober or she hasn't smoked in a while, and she will like tell me about it. She's like, it's really hard. She's like especially with anxiety and depression, like I suffer from both. And so like me talking to her is something that like she really appreciates, and I really appreciate it too, because it lets us kind of like share experience or share like this bond of like we both deal with the same thing. And like this is what works for me, you can try it if you want,
mm,
but not everybody's the same. And that's a big thing, is like something that worked for you may not work for someone else. Like some people do the 12 steps over and over and over again, you know, to keep themselves involved. And then there's some people that just do their recovery on their own, and I've been one of those people that's been more inclined to like do it on my own, because I feel like if I can do it myself, then I can do anything. Like I can, face any challenge and like head on. Like of course things will go bad. I'm not saying that like I'm gonna be this like superhuman that can do anything in the world because he sobriety, because it's always going to be an ongoing battle. There's never a day where you will not be in recovery from this point on. So like even if I relapse, or even if I, have a day where I get high, like of course that's not the end. It's just like starting a new chapter. Your chapter ended with you getting high, and your next chapter starts the next day. You just get back on the planet. And that's the big thing. Like I knew a guy who, when I was in the outpatient part, he got drunk and he told us, he confessed, he said, "Guys, like I want to tell you, like I messed up last night. Like I had a relapse. Like I got into a fight with my wife and I just drank." He's like, I've had so much going on, and it was a lot to handle. And he's also the guy that coined me out. He's like one of my biggest supporters. I haven't talked to him in a while, but yeah, he was one of my biggest supporters in there. He was kind of like a dad or a big brother. Like he was somebody that like I really enjoyed talking to every day because he was, older than me. I'm 21 and he was in his 50s. And so he was able to share all these experiences that he's been through and like ways that he's done things in the past, or like these coping mechanisms that he maybe have heard of from, like I said, past experiences. But that's who I talked to when I was in rehab. Is I talked to a lot of people that were like much older than me because they know more. Like the teenage kids you meet, they're in the same boat as you. They don't know what they're doing with their lives. We are working jobs at restaurants and fast food places and all these things. And then, I was in there with people that own companies or are like really high up at different companies, and like watching them recover and then having to go back to their big time jobs is like a really, really hard thing because they have everything to lose, their job, their family, their house, their cars, like everything. And I'm like, oh man, I didn't, I'm not really, I'm not losing much here. Like I'm going to lose a month of my life, but getting out, like I didn't really, I was very fortunate to really not lose much. Like,
Could I want to just throw something out there that, uh, have you, like, would you ever consider like texting one of them and saying like, "Hey, I was just thinking about you," like whoever this company owner is or whoever this big brother is, and just being like, "Yo, like I was thinking about you, and I just want to tell you how much I care about you," or something like, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, I need to. And I'll be honest, I lack at that.
It's tough, dude. We have so much that's going on in our lives.
Yeah. COVID, work, me trying to figure everything out for myself. Like it's hard to I don't want to be a burden to others. And I feel like, they might think like them telling me they're not okay is going to be a burden to me because
Mm,
I worry what I'm thinking about them, you know? So it's like a very awkward situation for somebody to be like, no, I'm not doing okay. I need help. Cause then you're kind of like, oh, like, I can help you as best as I can, but like, I'm not, you know?
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I think that also kind of goes along with the maybe the group therapy because it's like, for in your mind, like in your mind, you're thinking, okay, like I've just figured this out for myself, and like it's working, and I don't want to tip the boat. I don't want to, right? Kind of a thing. Is that am I?
Yes, on the dot. You hit
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think there could be a difference between saying like reaching out and being like, hey, like I hope you're doing well versus like, hey, I just want to let you know I care about you. You know, like one is just putting it out there that you care. You know, the other is like because dude, I know like whenever I get a random text from someone, if it's someone I'm close to or someone I'm not, I'm just like, wow, okay, like I'm not forgotten. you know.
Yeah, I appreciate getting those texts. I haven't in a while, but I do have like a few friends that'll text me like, "Hey, how are you?" Or that girl I was talking about earlier. She asks me, "How am I?" like 4 or 5 times a day, and I do the same for her. Because your mood changes within the hour. Like some days I'll be fine, and then 6, 7 o'clock comes, and I'm just like, ah, dang it, I feel like shit, like depressed. Don't really know if I'm like worth it. Like suicide has kind of been one of those things that I try not to think about, but like I do have those thoughts sometimes, and it's not ever gotten to the point where I've like planned it, but it's kind of just like, oh, like would it be that bad? Just an escape. You can't use drugs. You don't want to deal with your problems. and not being able to use drugs is something that you think about. You're like, well, I can't get high. I don't really want to do this sober, so what's the other option?
Mm.
Take it head on. Doesn't sound like fun.
Yeah.
Try and forget about it.
Yeah. It's like
It's hard to
brushing it under
do.
the rug. It's not healthy. Yeah. Well, along these lines, could I ask you what are some positive habits that you've incorporated since then that you're really proud of?
I mean, I do still use nicotine and I use caffeine, which some people don't use, but that's it's in a weird way has kept
It's a good middle ground. Yeah.
like, and that's why my parents are kind of like, well, we don't want you to use drugs and we don't want to take you off something that is potentially keeping you from doing that. And so I still do that. Going to church, talking to people, and not just if they ask you if you're okay, saying, yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm good. Yeah. Yeah. I hate that
Like,
shit. That like surface level shit. I'm like so done with it.
yeah, like if I ask you how you're doing, it's not, and a lot of people, especially like if I'm talking to a girl, I'll ask her how you're doing. A lot of people probably think that I'm like trying to get in their pants. And it's like, no, I'm just trying to check up on you. Like, I'm your friend. Like, I care about you. Like, it's not me trying to hit you up, trying to be like fake about it. Like, if I ask like how you're doing, like I really want to know.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head with one of the really uh uh unhealthy trends in our culture is that kind of conversation, the what's up, how you doing, and it being like good. Um, and it's a culture that's invulnerable, that does not care about vulnerability. And how do you think that? I mean, this is kind of a macroscopic, very big question, but how do you think that we can become a culture that is more willing to talk about our feelings?
I mean, it's deep rooted in society. Men are those, it's like plays a lot in like men are supposed to be the providers. They're supposed to not show weakness. They're supposed to be like super strong. Nothing hurts me. Don't cry or you're a pussy. Like, stuff like that. And then like girls are supposed to be seen as like these emotional creatures who need the help of a man or like who need help from somebody else because they can't do anything on their own. And I think until us as a society realize that it's okay to be emotional, even if you're a man, or like if you're not an emotional woman, it doesn't mean that you're a bitch. It just means that like you like want to think for yourself. You want to be independent. You want to, like have your own way of thinking. Like, no, you don't need anyone to tell you, like, you should feel this way. Like, you can't cry. You can't,
Mm.
it's a very deep rooted societal issue that at this point, like, it's going to be, I don't know how, honestly, you can encourage an entire society or entire, country, even in America, to be like, hey, we need to be more genuine. Like, how do you,
Yeah.
it's not something you can send the president up there to do and just be like, Americans need to be more vulnerable because vulnerability means letting people into your problems and letting people see where you're weak and where you struggle, and like whether that be drugs or whether that be maybe like sex addiction or like any of these things, even if you struggle with just like anxiety, depression, like it's hard to open up about that stuff because you don't want people to know that you're weak.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is confident and strong, and I think that it's the opposite of like you opening up and you telling me how you're doing and you like really being honest with me about your emotions is way stronger than you bottling everything up and dealing with it yourself. Like you just sitting there and thinking and dwelling on all these things that you think about, like these bad things that you think about yourself or that you think others think about you, like you being honest with yourself and you opening up to people and you building these connections with people that will last forever is way stronger. It's and that's kind of we need to flip it, like you opening up and being vulnerable and like letting people in your life is something that we need to do,
Mm,
because if we continue to distance ourselves from people and we continue to just be this surface level generation of people that, I'm fine, I'm okay, like I don't want to worry you, like don't worry about me, I'm okay. It's kind of like, okay, well now I'm going to worry about you because obviously something's up. Like if you're upset and I can tell that you're upset and I ask if you're upset and you just go, I'll be fine. Like, what does that mean? Like, you'll be fine now. You'll be fine in 2 days. You'll be fine in 5 years. And like, I do understand if it's something personal going on in your life and you don't want to tell me about it, but at least be like, yeah, like, can we talk? Just general talk. Just, hey, I have something going on. Can you pray for me? Can you listen to what I have to say? Like, hey, I'm struggling with anxiety. I have something going on at my home and it really hurts. I don't want to tell you what it is, but I want somebody to be able to be here for me. And I feel like that's something that we as people, because we are emotional creatures, and there's no way around that.
no.
And showing emotion is hard because you don't want people to know how you feel, because you don't want people to see you as emotional, because uh, being sad, like, why do you want people to know that you're sad? Why would you want people to know that you're depressed? Why would you want people to know that you want to kill yourself? Like, there's so many things that you don't want people to know, that if you told people, it'd make you feel better. Like me telling people, I'm not doing well right now, I'm hurting, I am sad, and this is why. Like, just me telling one of my friends that makes me feel better, because then I know I have someone to talk to. And when you grow up and you have not made any of these connections and you try and connect with somebody, it's going to be way harder when you're 40 years old and like you have one person that you can go to and that's your wife, like, or your husband, or like, what are you supposed to use them as, your therapist? Like, and a lot of people, like, I guess this is kind of a tangent, see therapy as something that is weak. Like having a psychiatrist or somebody that you can talk to that's not in your family is weak, because you don't need that. Mental health, you don't want to think about your mental health, because depression and anxiety aren't real. Addiction isn't real. It's just a mind game. You have to be stronger than it yourself. And I think that's stupid. I think it's so stupid. Like, I don't see my therapist often. I have a psychiatrist, and I see him or her depending on, whatever, like once or twice, like once every couple months. And just being able to tell somebody with medical knowledge how I feel about myself, and then being like, okay, well, why do you feel this way? Why do you think you feel this
Hmm.
way? This something that you should do to better yourself. Like, why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want to know that there are things that you could do to better yourself?
Dude, man. Dude, this is great. This is great stuff, man. Ah, dude, you're so smart. You're smart and emotionally intelligent, and thank God. Thank God for you.
I appreciate that, bro. Thank you too for like listening.
Oh,
Like, it's hard to
God.
find people more than a 2 minute conversation on here.
I mean, well, I want to circle back because there was something that we were talking about with a lot, like, can we have the president go up there and say, like, people need to be more vulnerable, right? Like, I think that they're actually, I was thinking, like, okay, is Donald Trump vulnerable? Is Biden vulnerable? And I'm thinking that there are three stages to that process of being a vulnerable person and having it come off as weak, right? So you have like the strong man kind of stage, which is, don't worry about me. I can handle anything. I'm not going to show you any vulnerability or any emotion at all. Um, and that's kind of how I think of Trump, right? Or like at least how he kind of thinks about emotion, because yeah, he never says that anything is wrong, and so I mean, you can definitely see him get flustered, but he doesn't like talk about his feelings, right? So there's that. Then there's this idea of, if you just say like, "Oh, I feel sad, I feel angry," I feel, in some, so there's that kind of like step number one in it, in admitting feeling, um, which is great. That's like the dam breaking, and that. But I think people view that as a vulnerability because it's like it goes along with what you were saying. Like why is he even saying this in the first place? Like what does he want us to like? What am I going to do about it? I have a full-time job. So what if fucking Joe Biden is angry? He's saying he's angry on the stage. This guy's I don't want him leading the country. But then I think there's a third step. There's a third phase, which is talking about how you feel, talking about why you think you feel that way, and then literally articulating steps as to how to work to let it go. And also not only talking about it and articulating it in a way that's digestible to a large audience, but also to actually do those things. To not only talk the talk but walk the
Mhm.
walk. So like,
Yeah,
it's interesting that Trump like doesn't drink alcohol, right? Like that like honestly, I would respect that. I don't respect him, just to be clear right now. But I think I would respect him so much if he came out and he was like, "Look, like I am an alcoholic. I have been working on this for 40 years. There were these incidents, and every day is a struggle." Like, I think that takes strength. That vulnerability takes strength. The way that strength is viewed now by our leaders is quite the opposite of how I think we need to go about things. And the only way, and this is all to say, that getting back to earlier in our conversation where we're asking how do we allow our culture or society to develop into a more sincere, genuine, loving, vulnerable place. That's the step that's needed to take. That's the step that our leaders need to take now to be able to get there 50 years from now. That's step
yeah,
one.
100%.
um, and so how do we get there? I think we need to we need to elect people who actually have the balls, the guts to do it. Um,
Yeah, and I think also like as a nation right now we're so divided. There is everybody is defined by their politics. You can't be friends with this person if you're conservative. You can't be friends with this person if you're a liberal. You can't connect. And I think that as a people, like at the core of everyone is humanity and
yes,
and love. And I think that even if you don't support what someone believes in, why can't you like love them? Like you don't have to despise them because like you can not agree. Like I mean, obviously, like I have my beliefs, and some people don't like them, but there's also people that do like them.
yeah,
It
it's
goes,
it's great. It's great to not agree. It shows that there's different perspectives and that we all kind of have a different perspective of what truth is. That's what makes this country great. That's what makes this world a beautiful place. Is the diversity. That's what it means to be diverse. Sorry, I'm jumping in. keep
I
going.
appreciate it, and like I think that we need to, as people, come together, which is like very cliche, but I think we need to cast our differences aside and just love each other. You know, build a culture and a country of love, which is so hard to do when there's people, you know, on each side that are like very militant, you know, obviously. Like each side is gonna have those people that are like, no, fuck you. Like I don't want to love you because you don't agree with what I believe in. Like don't speak to me, don't even look at me, like don't even do just don't yeah.
I
No, just
think
don't.
I think I am completely on the same page and with you, and I think this is where I see the crux of the issue right now, and I would love to hear your thoughts of this. It's like people hold principles to be so important,
Yeah.
right? It's and which is exactly what you're saying, and just to kind of further dig down into it, like I haven't, if I didn't, if I weren't related to one of my aunts. she is very pro life, right? And I think that, and I think this is where it becomes difficult. It's like, how I think a lot of people think, how, if they're pro life or pro choice, they think, how could I ever respect or love a person that thinks that murder should be legal, or that thinks for the pro lifers, if
Yeah.
they say, how could I ever respect or love someone who thinks that murder should be legal? And for the pro choicers, they think, how could I ever love or respect someone that doesn't let me have my own say about my own body?
Yeah.
And so how do we build a bridge between those people? How do we do that?
Talking. It sounds so weird, but just sitting down with somebody and listening to them and trying to build common ground. You know, like I've watched like the Change My Mind videos, if you know anything about those. Was
No. Oh, I have actually. Yeah. What channel is that? What YouTube channel is that? Do you know?
Crowder. You can just Google or like put in YouTube, just put in Change My Mind, and he's made probably 100. Yeah. So it, I mean, and he just genuinely will sit down and he'll discuss an issue like, I'm pro-choice, or he's conservative, so he's like, I'm pro-life, change my mind. Things like that, or like, and it he a lot. Sometimes people just yell at him or will throw insults at him, and then there's those people that will genuinely sit down and have a talk with him. And the first thing that he does is he will bring up a point and he'll say, "Let's build a common ground," which I think is the first thing that we need to do. We need to find something that we both can agree on and then branch from there. Because if you can find something that you can agree on, then there's more of a connection than you thinking of, how can I love this person when they don't support what I support? So like me sitting down with somebody who is like, I think that there's sides to both of those that are true. Like being pro-life and being pro-choice, there's obviously like, I think you can be in the middle personally. Like I think that there are situations that will, like if you get raped, obviously, why would you want to keep that child? Like why would you want to bring the product of rape into this world and having to tell them you were brought into this world forcefully? I didn't have a choice in bringing you into this world, and like having to put that burden on them. Like how would they feel if they ever found out that that's why they were born?
Mm.
Like your mother was raped, that's why you're a kid, she didn't want you. Like how would that make you feel? It'd make you feel like shit. Like like you'd feel less than a, like. And so I think that, and it's hard to discuss this with people because once you say something, you're immediately associated with the far, like if you
Right.
say I'm pro-choice or I'm pro-life, if you say you're pro-choice, then like you're completely left. You have no idea of what's in the middle. You don't want to respect what other people believe in. And then if you say, well, I'm pro-life, then you automatically hate women and you don't want them to be able to choose, and you don't like respect women for their bodies and everything like that. And I just think like I try every day to just build myself as somebody who loves. You believe it, good for you. I'm glad you're happy. Do what makes your heart feel good. It doesn't matter what side you're on. If you are doing something because you believe in it and it is something that you believe in, then I have no problem with it. Like we may not agree, but that's what this world is built on, is disagreement. We wouldn't have a democracy if we did not. If we completely agreed on everything, then this world would, honestly, if we completely agreed on everything, this world would be pretty boring.
Yeah, yeah, it'd suck.
Yeah, like there would be no difference between anybody. It would just be gray. And like having these discussions with people is, and having a genuine, respectful discourse, just talking with somebody about it, I think is how we change this world. And like another topic, like gun control is hot right now, especially with like the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. It's just been, and all shootings of these people and all that's going on. Like there's so much in this world. Like yes, like I personally am a gun owner, but I'm doing things to make sure that I'm a responsible one. I'm taking classes. I'm going to the range. I, take the clip out when it doesn't need to be out. Like, and one of the things they teach you is always treat a gun like it's loaded. And so I am taking the steps to make myself a responsible gun owner, not one that just flashes it everywhere and is like, oh look, I have a gun, I have this, haha. Like, and I think it's hard for people to see past the fact that I own a gun. Like some people are like, oh, you own a gun? That's crazy. Like they immediately get that thought of you're just going to shoot somebody because you want to. You're just going to murder somebody.
And you know what is probably like another added layer to that is they think, oh my gosh, like this guy is a drug addict and he has a gun. Like he shouldn't have a gun. I mean that these are the labels that paint broad strokes that limit people and that just cause more divisiveness.
Yes, I hate labels. I hate it because, and people that struggle with mental health issues, I will tell them, I don't recommend that you go get diagnosed for the fact that once you have that label put on yourself, you're always going to look at yourself that way. Like one of my friends was like, I'm bipolar, or I think I'm bipolar. I'm like, okay, if you want to, you can go talk to a doctor, but are you ready to have that label put on you for the rest of your life? Are you ready to accept the fact that you are bipolar? Because that's a big label.
Yeah, and what does it even mean? Like
you're going to think about that forever. What's wrong with me? Why do I have this? Why am I not normal? Why am I depressed all the time?
There's my quick opinion of that is the kind of middle ground argument too, because I think there are societal labels to social illness, right? Like things that are more mild, and for those more mild cases of social illness, I think that's just human anxiety. I think it's just like, social anxiety is somewhat just human. But then there are things that chemical that that can really only be treated by a psychiatrist that should be diagnosed. But of course, so many cases lie right in the middle. It's tough to say. So I don't know,
And
but yeah.
that's what's hard about it. It's like if you're the most mild case ever, once you get painted with that bipolar brush, it's just your mind is gonna over and over in your head about what I am. Is it gonna get worse? Am I ever gonna get better? Like, am I gonna am I ready for this? Like I am diagnosed ADHD, depression, anxiety. Like I am all these things, and
How old were you when you were diagnosed?
I've had ADHD since I was probably like 3 or 4 or 5 years old. So that's something I've just grown up with knowing. Like, but I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression up at college. And part of it did stem from drug abuse and it made it worse. And so, I mean, being diagnosed with like general anxiety or social anxiety disorder, it's hard because you think like, why am I not like these people that are happy all the time? Why can I not be happy? Why do I have these days? Like, why do I want to kill myself? Why do I want to do these things why is it hard for me to get out of bed? Why is it hard for me to be happy when I look at myself in the mirror? Like, why am I not like these people that are happy? And like, I know that everybody has their struggles, but it's hard to see that sometimes because you can only focus on yourself. And like, it's such a hard thing, to do, is to like, and again, it's back to the vulnerability part. Like you have to go to a doctor and you have to tell them that something's wrong with you. You have to be in the mindset of I'm going to, get help. And that's hard to do. It's hard to get help. You don't want people telling you what to do, especially if it's take this medicine, go to a therapist, go to a psychiatrist. Like, you don't want to do those things. You want to be able to deal with it yourself. Like, you want to be able to just not think about it. And I think that that's, again, like what we need to do as like a society is accept that we have a
Dude, I am like so many ideas and thoughts are bubbling in my head right now. This is amazing. Like I want to kind of bring it back to like figuring out these societal problems of like growing a more vulnerable culture because I think that is really my goal for this channel. And I'm thinking too about this idea of why there's something like when we meet on Omegle, they're just two random people, and why is it that people aren't just immediately vulnerable with each other right out of the gate all the time? And I think there's a level. I think there trust needs to be established. How is trust established, right? I think that's important. But and then also there's an idea of power. There's a power dynamic. And I think that when there's a level of trust, it's there's a an assumption that
transfer.
what is that?
Instead of
Transparency.
transfer, like
Like
trans.
exactly like a passing the ball back and forth, right? And and I think the more that a rapport is developed, the more trust there is, and the more likely people think there will be between equal sharing of power. I think that's important. And I think that's also one of the reasons that our society, it's very difficult to be vulnerable on a large scale in a position of power because when you're in power, if you relinquish that power by being vulnerable, then the people who aren't in power will more likely than not attack you and make you to gain power themselves, you know? And so there needs to be right now I'm thinking out loud with you. There needs to be some kind of an assurance that it's okay to step out of the shadow and to speak freely without getting punched by those people who want power or who aren't in power so that it can benefit the whole. Now
Yeah,
how do we do that? Like I don't know how we deal with that power dynamic.
and yeah, that is also really weird because you'll see us as normal, I guess you would say, in society, like not famous, not these things, but then you do have famous people, like who will come out with like being drug addicts, like Demi Lovato, or all these people that have struggled with recovery and all that, and then all the tabloids, you know, oh, she has depression, she has anxiety, like, wow, they're an addict. It just kind of like, why do you want millions and millions of your fans and people to know that? Like, and especially like if they're not saying it themselves, and
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
if you look at all the powerful people in this world, like government and like like Jeff Bezos or like any of these people that hold a lot of power, you don't ever see them talking about their struggles. No, it's all they put on this false persona of safety and security, that everything's okay in their little world, that because they're okay, their business is going to be okay, and if they you know aren't open with like themselves or the world about it, then the world won't see them different, and they'll hold that power that they so much like have held for a long time. Like, why would you as a president or you as a senator, like tell people that you have struggled with addiction?
Right.
Like, then like, I don't want you in charge of this country. You're weak. You can't do that because we trust you. Like, we don't want a drug addict as a senator. We don't want a drug addict as a president. We want these people. Oh yes, like I did this, I did that. They always talk about the good and they never talk about the bad. And I think that until we start talking about the bad, the good means nothing. It's like checks and balances. Like
Mm.
you have all these good things that you do, and if you keep building up these good things, then one bad thing is going to happen, and it's just going to shatter all of those. If you have a good thing and then a bad thing and then a good thing and then a bad thing, people are going to be like, oh, this person's very open. They seem more trustworthy. But if you have a person that never talks about the bad, you're kind of like, well, what are they going to think of me? Like, I've done bad things. Like, why would I tell somebody that has done all these good things what's wrong with me? Like, I don't want to do that because, like, what are they going to judge me about? Is there something that, like, you just feel so disconnected from those people, even though they're people? And I think that, like, it sounds so weird. Like, if, like, we were able to talk to famous people or people in power one on one and just be like, tell me about yourself. Tell me
Yeah.
something you tell just tell me something that will show me that you are just the same as me. Put aside the money, the fame, the power, all these you have, and just be real with me. Just just show me that we are the same person, that we share something in common. And I think that that's also like it goes back to like as people, even if you find one thing in common with 100,000 people, it'll go such a long way. You know, if you're open with one person, then they're like, oh, maybe I can be open with two more. Hello? One second. Okay, 1 second. I'm having a conversation with this guy.
Okay.
Thank you. I thought my keys just fell out of me, but they didn't.
No, I don't think so.
No, they're right here. All right. Bye. That was my dad. Oh, we'll interrupt you.
It's okay.
But
It's funny how things change just when like another person enters the scene, right? Isn't it crazy?
yeah, honestly, one person changes an entire room. Like people say, a smile lights up the whole room. And it's such a weird phrase because you're like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. How can you smile? If I walk into a place giving off like, and people say, oh, like vibes is such a Gen Z, oh, good vibe. Like, but if you give off an aura of trust and love and compassion and all these things, then more people are going to start giving that off instead of being closed off and resentful and hateful and harboring all this stuff in. If you know, like I said, if you open up to one person, they can open up to two people, and those two people can open up to four people, and four can open up to eight, and eight to 16, and then you have this big pool that you are able to talk to. They're like, oh, like, you know, I've talked to Grace. Grace said that you're her friend and that you're really trustworthy. Can I talk to you? And you just build this network of people, this network of openness and love with people that you may not even know.
Exactly. It's a beautiful thing. The possibilities are endless with that, you know?
Yes.
I want to just kind of like mention two things before I forget them. I wrote them down. I was watching this interview with Pete Buttigieg. He was running for president.
Yeah.
He wrote a book recently called Trust, and
Okay.
I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. And I watched an interview with Katie Couric and Pete Buttigieg. I was like, oh, interesting. It's a Zoom interview, and it was the least vulnerable interview conversation I've ever seen, and I was just awestruck. I was like, this is like no wonder people don't want to watch these people talk because there's nothing being said. It's all. Oh, so what have you been doing? Well, I've been grading at Notre Dame. I've written a book. I've baked all of, Thanksgiving dinner. Like I've been doing all of these things, but he isn't just like Katie. I hate this time of year because I have to cook. I have to like I have to cook and I have to grade papers and I'm writing this book. Like it's stressful.
Yeah.
Like why isn't so to me that really I was like Pete Buttigieg, smart dude, but I it's very funny that he wrote a book called Trust because he's probably the person that I trust the least out of anyone on that stage. That's my thought. And then also too, just like uh, talking about like let's say if like Joe Biden popped up here on Omegle, could you imagine? And like why?
Oh, that
Uh,
insane. You're just like, oh, hey, like, whoa, whoa.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
What would you do in that situation if I was scrolling through and Justin Bieber or yeah, like sports? Like, what would you do if like I'm not a big
Yeah,
sports guy?
LeBron James.
Oh, yeah, like LeBron James or like Alex Bregman or like one of these famous people is just like, oh, I'm trying to meet people. You just be like, oh, okay, what's up? Like, what do you? How do you talk to somebody that is nowhere near? Like, it sounds sad. Like, what you'll be? Like, because I'm never going to be LeBron James. I'm never going to be JJ Watt, and it's hard for us to think that we do have commonalities between us.
Hmm.
You know, like we may struggle with the same thing. We may enjoy doing the same things, but we never think about that. We just think about their money and how they're famous and how we're never going to beat them. We don't think about the human part of them. We all bleed the same blood as people. There's, yeah, like deep down, we're all the same, you know? Like, forget skin color, forget race, forget, culture, forget all these things. We all come from the same God. Like, and that's my personal belief. God created everyone on this earth in his image, and it says that in the Bible. And it, and like, I'm not saying that you have to be Christian. I'm not saying that you have to be any of these things. I'm just saying that, like, we are all people. That is all we are. And we're on this, in this earth, in this world temporarily. And we're here to serve a purpose. Whatever that purpose may be, all of us have one. And it may not be professional sports star or president or all these things, but there is something that we're here for. There is something that we have been placed on this earth to do. We all have an end goal. We all have things that we think about that we want to do that could
A
better,
destiny, a destiny.
yeah, yeah, a destiny or fate, if you want to put it that way. Like we all have, and I think that we all have one, like just there's got to be something that everybody has in common. You have to have one thing in common with everybody on this earth. You don't know what it is or what it could be, but there's got to be something that we all have in common. And I think that until we all, like, sounds weird, but sit down and we find that thing that we all have in common, there's nothing that we can do about it.
Dude, I am sending you book recommendations. Dude, I love this. So many good books. Um, those are the two things that kind of pop out of my mind because these guys talk about how we all do have the something in common, and it's awareness.
Mm-hmm.
We all have that. So what does that mean? I mean that's a big philosophical idea, and those books go into it. I certainly don't think I'm qualified to talk about it, but I think a lot of it is just being where you are, listening, talking, engaging, being here now with you. Like
Being,
this,
yeah, yes, 100%.
right?
Like, even if we don't agree on things, we're still going to be able to talk about them and find something that we do agree on. And I feel like even if we were on two opposite sides of our beliefs, if we came together and found one or two things that we enjoyed or that we believe in, that we share a same belief, it would build trust or a sense of trust at least. You know, you may be able to open up again, like with them more. You know, you talk to them again. You like, hey, like we talked about this. Do you want to expand on that? Do you want to go deeper? And I think that that would build more. And I think that, like, yeah, like you said, awareness. You know, I think that we need to just build a culture of love. I think we all need to have love in common.
Ugh, yeah, yeah.
That even if you don't agree with somebody, love them because they are a person. They are. Yeah, like I said before, you know, we all bleed the same blood. We just need to love each other, even if you don't want to talk to me, you don't want to look at me, you don't want to hear what I have to say. At least love me. You don't even have to accept my beliefs. You can say an idiot. You can say that's stupid, or
I
you
don't
like, you
agree
know,
with that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but just love me. You're like, I don't like that, but I still love you, and I will try and help you if you need it. Like, put aside our differences and come together as one people that can say to someone else, even though I don't agree with you, I still love you. Like, imagine if one person did that just to one person each day, like what that would do to us as a society. Just telling somebody you love them. Hey, I love you. Even if you don't know them. Sounds weird. You know, you don't want to tell the person at the drive through, like, hey, I love you. But just being like, hey, I know this is going to sound weird or I don't want to be creepy, but like, I just want to let you know that like I love you. I respect you. I and I see this TikTok of this guy, and he'll go around and he'll just tell people like, "Hey, with all that's going on, I just want to let you know I love you. I respect you, and if I have to, I will protect you." Like there's these things that, and that's just three base things: security, love, and acceptance. We all seek as humans. Who doesn't want to be accepted? Who doesn't want to be respected? Who doesn't want to be secure? Like just just building a culture of love and acceptance would change everything.
Hmm.
Like
Well,
if we could all like
yeah.
it should, and that's so hard to imagine
So
because
oh yeah, yeah. Well, there's just two things because I want to start to wrap this up because I mean I could literally talk to you for 4 hours. I think at first I have a question and then I have a final thought, and then I'd like to turn it around to you for your final thoughts of the things that have popped up in your mind. Um, so my question is for these videos I use a name and a state. So I don't even know your name yet. What is your
I,
name?
Cole,
Cole. Okay, like
yes sir, yep,
Cole. Well, and what state are you from?
I'm from Texas.
All right. Beautiful, man. That's great. And I'm Kenny, and I'm from Florida.
It's nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you. Um, I'll say my one final thought as a tag on to something that I said previously with Pete Buttigieg. It's not that I am set in my ways of not trusting Pete Buttigieg. From watching that interview, I am way less likely to trust anything that he says. But I am open. I am open to changing my ways. And I think I will be open to changing my ways if I see some attempt or action in him becoming a little more vulnerable and him
Yeah,
actually me seeing him as a human being. And so I want to add that. Then my final thought is for the people out there watching. Um, if I were to see Joe Biden pop up on my Omegle, and if any of you were to meet Joe Biden on Omegle, just like I think what I would do is I would treat him just like any other human being on here,
Yeah.
which is treat him with, and it's how every person should treat another person on Omegle. You should treat this the person you see on Omegle as Joe Biden, you know, and or I guess I'm saying that in terms of like you should. I think it's important to respect to every you may not respect Joe Biden, so that's why I'm going to shift my example. But I think that every person that you meet on here, respect them as much as you want to be respected yourself. And I think
Yeah.
that I mean it's such a such a simple message, but there's also so much substance to it. Like literally our hour and a half long conversation has literally been orbiting around that thought. And
Mhm.
it's so much richer. It's so much more complex than just those words, right? It is really allowing yourself to be present with the person, to listen, to love, and to be there, for them. And so, Joe Biden, if you're out there and you ever want to talk, you would love to have you. And and Cole, I will leave it with you now to take it home, bring it home for us. What do you think are the things that you're taking away from this conversation, and what are some final thoughts that you'd like to leave the audience with?
I mean, yeah, just like you said, just it's the golden rule. Treat others the way that you want to be treated. Love each other. You know, even if you don't agree with somebody, just look at them as a person. Don't look at them as their beliefs, because beliefs do kind of like define people per se, but also like just don't look at them. Just look at another person and be able to just say like, I love you. Like as a person at our core, I love you, and I respect you because you are standing up for something that you believe in, even if it's not what I believe in. And I think that that is what makes our country great, is that ability to not, to have discourse, because there are places in this world that if you don't believe in what somebody tells you to believe in, you will be executed. You will be sent to prison. You will be, sent into homelessness, any of these things, these bad things that in America we don't really even have to imagine. And just kind of like, yeah, to wrap it up, because if I keep talking, I'm just gonna keep
That's
going on. I just
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I just think at the core of this entire conversation that we've had has just been orbiting around love, and I think that we just need as a people to be vulnerable and to open up and to love each other, because until we love each other, we cannot change this world. As long as there is divisiveness and that we are divided as a people, there will be nothing that changes it until we can start loving each other. Like, I will love somebody that doesn't believe in what I believe in, and I will love somebody that does believe what I believe in. I don't care if you're rich, poor, if you're a different race than me, different ethnicity, different culture, if you're any of these things, I still love you. Like I will always love you, and if you need anything, like let me know, because I will talk to you. Like if you like want to have a conversation about what I believe in, or if you want to explain to me what you believe in and why you believe in it, then of course, like I'll listen to you. Like there's no reason I shouldn't. That I'm open to my mind changing, and I'm open to change other people's minds, and I think that that should be something that we're all open to, is change also, because if you're so rooted in your ways and you're not accepting of the fact that there are things that you may be wrong about, then like what is this world going to do? We're not going to be able to change, because change means vulnerability. Change means loving each other. Change means opening up. And until we can change as a people, like change as a whole, as a culture, and accept change and accept that things may not go our way or things that will go our way, like I think just back to the whole beginning, I just think that we should love and be vulnerable with each other. And I think that in the end, completely turned this whole world around.
Cole, dude, I am sending you my email. So if you ever want to do this again, um,
You have Instagram?
I don't. This is my only social media, actually.
Yeah.
I'm building it from the ground up. Yeah, and so I'll be uploading this video. It'll probably take a while, but it'll be up definitely by midnight, probably.
Okay.
So you can see it pop up. And want to let you know too that uh, I am gonna, because of my conversation with you, I'm gonna do something different, um, and I'm gonna make sure to tell at least a person a day that I love them. You know, and
Thank you.
yeah. So thank you. That was a beautiful thought.
This has been the best talk that I've had with anybody in a long time. Like actually, and
Cool.
it's I met an hour ago, hour and a half ago. No idea who you were, and we just had this beautiful talk. Like honestly, it means the world. Like, I have a lot to think about. So
Well, I mean, check out. Yeah. Well, everyone, do you have an Instagram? Do you have a YouTube that you want to post up here that
I
people
do
can
have
follow you?
that is my Instagram. Semicolon.
That's good. Semicolon. That's good.
So
All right, dude. Well, to next time. Okay. This is not goodbye.
I love you.
Yeah. I love you.
All right. See you, brother.
See ya.
Bye.